Valley Forge in Pennsylvania nearly 250 years ago. During a bitterly cold and wet winter, George Washington stationed the Continental Army on this rural plateau just outside of Philadelphia. Now, the defensible position, it gave Washington's exhausted troops time to rest, recover, recoup, and retrain for what was the long war ahead. Now, tomorrow, President Joe Biden was set to give a big speech near the very site in Valley Forge, but not to commemorate Washington or the heroes in the Continental Army who won America's fight for independence. No. Instead, Biden planned to commemorate, that's right, the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021. But due to possible snow in the forecast, the speech was moved up and took place just a few hours ago. Now, remember, slick conditions can be fatal for a president as frail and weak as Joe Biden. As I've been saying, he is one fall away, and the Democrats may very well be forced to pick a new nominee for 2024. Now, of course, the content of today's venomous speech remained the same. To sum it all up, as I told you, you're going to hear this all election season long. According to Biden, those who want to make America great again, you want America to be great again, you are a threat to democracy. And only Joe Biden, who doesn't know what day it is, can save us from ourselves. Take a look.
Just one day before January 6th, a day forever shared in our memory because it was on that day that we nearly lost America, lost it all. Today, we're here to answer the most important of questions. Is democracy still America's sacred cause? This is not rhetorical, academic, or hypothetical. Whether democracy is still America's sacred cause is the most urgent question of our time. And it's what the 2024 election is all about. The choice is clear. Donald Trump's campaign is about him, not America, not you. Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past, not the future, because of Donald Trump's lies. They died because these lies brought a mob to Washington. He promised it would be wild, and it was. He told the crowd to fight like hell.
He forgot the words peacefully, patriotically march to the Capitol so your voices will be heard. How convenient. Now, also noticeably missing from those remarks any mention of the economy or inflation or national security or violent crime or the fentanyl crisis. Now, in a blistering response, former President Trump told Fox News, quote, Joe Biden is the worst president in the history of the United States. He is incompetent, he's crooked, and in many respects, he is Benedict Arnold. He is destroying our country like no one else has done before. And meanwhile, we've heard the same divisive speech from Biden before. And get ready and buckle up. As I said Tuesday, my first show back for the new year, he will do this over and over and over again throughout the 2024 campaign. In fact, it's one of the only things Democrats are going to want to talk about in the lead up to the election. Here is their plan. Watch for it, notice it, observe it, and, embrace this. You know what they're going to do. They will focus on Trump, Trump, Trump. January 6, January 6, January 6. By the way, without any context that should be relevant, without any mention of the 2020 riots that they refer to as mostly peaceful, they will demagogue abortion, and whenever possible, they will dust off the usual playbook that the Democratic Party has. Republicans are racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, transphobic. The GOP wants dirty air and dirty water, and they want some prominent Republican to push your grandma and grandpa off a cliff. Now, in contrast, here's what they won't talk about, and it's a long list. They're not going to talk about the failure of Joe Biden's border crisis. They're not going to talk about the drug crisis. They're not going to talk about Joe Biden's inflation. They're not going to talk about the horrible educational system because of the Democratic Party's unholy alliance with Teachers Union. They're not going to talk about affordable housing, homelessness, Bidenomics. They've been talking about it for a year. Yeah, guess what? Only 34% of Americans Americans actually think the economy is even decent. They won't talk about law and order and safety and security. They don't want to talk about international affairs. They don't want to talk about the war in Ukraine, in Europe. They don't want to talk about the war in the Middle East, in Gaza. They don't want to call terrorism terrorism and the terror attacks against our troops. They don't want to talk about the failure of their new Green Deal socialism. And get this, even life expectancy has gone down under Joe Biden. Joe Biden pretty much has failed at everything. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? So, of course, they don't want to talk about accomplishments because I can't think of any. Can you? Now, in fact, you probably won't see or hear a whole lot from Biden in the coming months. The media will aid and abet him hiding in the basement of the White House once again. And it appears that he's headed back to that basement. And Joe is, frankly, he is not up to the rigors of the job, never mind a campaign. Now, here's Biden's recent schedule, according to the RNC research. On December 22nd, he actually spent a few minutes at a children's hospital in Washington, D.C., about 9 minutes. Anyway, then he left for vacation at Camp David. He remained on vacation until the 26th, and then the very next day he left for another vacation, this one in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And as evidenced by his horrific sunburn, well, Biden baked in the Caribbean heat for the next 7 days during a relaxing stay in St. Croix. Then he returned to D.C. on the night of January 2nd. The next 2 days, he appeared to do absolutely, positively nothing. That brings us to today's big event, a speech about how his political opponents are evil. In theory, Biden has two very difficult jobs, one as commander-in-chief and another on the campaign trail, but it certainly appears, with anybody with eyes to see, that Biden is doing neither of those jobs, and yet he wants you, the American people, to rubber stamp a second term. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.